All right, going to read a little bit more today. See what's about to happen. But I want to share something with you guys. You know how Elvis loved his horses, and I loved horses too. So Breyer, the company Breyer, remember back in the day, the Breyer horses? So they made a black Tennessee Walker that is modeled after Elvis's horse Bear. Look at the bottom, Elvis Presley and Bear. So there's that one. Oh my God, the horse is gorgeous. But this was his baby. Rising Sun was a Palomino. There's a picture of Elvis on it. Isn't that cool? Yep, I bought these on eBay. And on the back, it's got some pictures, a little bit of story about it. There's a bunch of pictures of him riding on Rising Sun. And he actually named his barn at Graceland, House of the Rising Sun. So anyway, that one's in the box right there. So that's pretty cool. Palomino, Rising Sun. Oh, and it also has, I don't know if you can see it in there, but it's got the imprint of the horse's name. Also, isn't that cool? Okay, back to the story. And there's Presley in here with us, appropriately. Okay. So we just read the fall of 1953, and now we're at November of 1953. Okay, so I guess you could say it's the end of fall. All right, Presley, got to go on. I tried to put Elvis out of my mind, but he called at the store, reminded me of my promise to go to Memphis. Despite my circumstances, I knew I could get away. I told my mother I had to go on a short trip to promote the Mr. Music show and would again stay with Mary. She readily agreed to take care of Deborah and Melody. Being able to get away so easily did little to relieve my conscience. I hated having to lie to anyone, especially my mother. But I had to do something to change my life. The situation was growing worse. The man had returned briefly. His actions followed the usual pattern. He appeared unannounced from wherever it was he had gone. The first 2 nights he drank and then raped me. When he had satisfied his sexual craving, he became violent and abusive. Shortly before leaving, he knocked me around to make sure I stayed in line while he was away. As I matured, I became less passive and started to rebel, which only led to more severe beatings. Part of his violence was fueled by his knowledge that I still despised him. The years had not tempered my hatred, nor had the children bonded us into a family. I never learned to love him as my relatives promised, and never gave up the hope that somehow I could escape. The older I became, the more determined I was to carry out that escape. Going to Memphis was the boldest move yet. While planning for the trip, I had to pay strict attention to maintaining my composure. The anticipation lifted my spirits, but it couldn't show. Miss Fowler was still keeping watch. I caught myself singing a few times and stopped so as not to arouse any suspicion. So she was excited, but she had to keep it in. I could let my feelings show only when alone. I managed to get away for a short shopping trip the day before leaving. Feeling frivolous, I bought a floor-length batiste cotton gown. It was cream-colored with long puff sleeves, snaps down the front, and a fitted bodice. I had never owned anything so sheer. Buying it made me feel young. I was weary of having to be an adult. I wasn't an adult. I had just turned 17. I wasn't like other 17-year-olds that I knew. I wasn't like other 17-year-olds. I knew that, but I wasn't 11 anymore either. There would be no more hiding in the closet. The next day, I drove to the Monroe Airport and left my car. My neighbor, Elizabeth DeVille, had taught me how to drive a car before. The man purchased a dark burgundy 2-door convertible with a black rag top and designated it for emergencies only, like if the children got sick and needed to be rushed to the hospital. I decided this was an emergency. I took a plane because my nerves were too frazzled to deal with the long train ride. The plane was bumpy, but the trip was short. As I waited for my bags at the Memphis airport, another transformation occurred. The anger I drew upon to get there dissolved and was replaced by insecurity. Did Elvis really like me? The thoughts were interrupted by a tap on the shoulder. "You scared me," I said, catching my breath. Something else frightened me. Elvis wasn't wearing the usual baggy gabardine pants and suit jacket. He wore tight black pants and a bright cowboy shirt unbuttoned halfway down his chest. He looked wild, untamed, and incredibly sexy. He wanted to take off somewhere right away, but I insisted on freshening up at the hotel first. We got into Elvis's car and headed for the city. Along the way, he described the conventional roadside sights with such zeal, I was uncertain whether he was keyed up by my visit or just devoted to his hometown. Elvis pulled up to the hotel and said he'd be back in an hour. He told me to bring my sleeping clothes and mentioned something about camping. I was wary of his suggestion. He sensed my misgivings and smiled. He gave me a light-hearted kiss and headed back to his car. He stopped, then spun around. "I have a surprise for you." He flashed a mischievous grin and drove away. I rushed to get ready. The promise of a surprise, combined with his boyishness excited and comforted. I rushed to get ready. The promise of a surprise, combined with his boyishness, excited and comforted me. Heeding his suggestion, so I've got a note here, said this is either October 31st of 53 or November 7th of 53. So I have done some research and things that were happening in his life, and based on the dates and that, these are open weekends, apparently. Okay, so heeding his suggestion to dress casually, I slipped on a pair of white slacks and a light blue blouse. I remembered his comment about the sleeping clothes and eased my new robe from the suitcase. I folded it and laid it inside a small travel bag. As I zipped the top, the phone rang. "You ready?" "It hasn't been an hour." "Sure it has. Memphis time. I can't wait." I was relieved he had called from downstairs and had not appeared at my door. That showed respect. I lingered only a few more minutes before descending. Ellis immediately escorted me to his car. He was subdued as we drove toward the outskirts of town. It was late afternoon and the drive was pleasant. I quietly admired the arching hillsides and contrasting colors of the trees and vegetation. I also noticed that the back seat was covered with bags and a box. "Elvis, where are we going?" "Surprise," he repeated. "You gotta wait for the surprise." I laughed as we continued deeper into the rolling countryside. The road began to wind. I was afraid he was going to take me to a camp or cabin where there would be other people. I didn't want to be around anyone else, not with my secret. Finally, he slowed down, pulled off the road, and stopped at the foot of a grassy hill. He sprung from the car and dashed around to my side. He opened the door and took my hand. I started to say something, but he put his finger to his lips and made a shh sound. He didn't say a word until we reached to the top of the hill. "This is the surprise, my gift to you." Elvis pointed to a breathtaking sunset. "This is your gift," he repeated. "And you know what? Only God can paint a sunset. Each one is an original. This one is yours, Lucy." He pulled me to him and kissed me. Instead of frightening me, the kiss drained my fear. I didn't care about anything else. The guilt vanished. "Come on," he said. "Let's walk." He took my hand again, and we began to walk along the hill, enjoying the view of the scarlet and golden sky before us. I felt clean and untouched. All the nightmares of the past appeared to be little more than a bad dream. This was love. This was what love was supposed to be. "Lucy, are you happy?" I stretched up on my toes and kissed him. That was my answer. The devilish glint returned to his eye. "You know something? My girl has to run for her supper." He took off in a sprint. I kept in step. We laughed the whole way back to the car. He opened the door and reached for the box and bags in the back seat. Dramatically overemphasizing every move, he spread out a red blanket and dotted it with plates. Elvis was playing the moment to the hilt. "You are to serve the feast," he said, "because you are my lady-in-waiting." I inspected the first bag and found him ham sandwiches, grapes, chips, and deviled eggs. "Would you like some wine?" he offered. What makes you think I want wine? I replied with mock annoyance. Well, you're French, aren't you? Who ever heard of a Frenchman not liking wine? When we finished the main course, he reached into the box and pulled out a bag of cherries. We spent the next half hour, eating cherries and silently enjoying the deepening colors of the sky. I'm glad you came, Lucy. Me too. But why did you bring me here? Is this where you bring all your girls? What girls? He explained. I don't have any girls. I thought you were my girl. I just wondered how you found this place. Have you been here before? He grew serious. One day, I was upset about not doing anything with my life. I just drove into the hills and ended up here. I thought it was the most beautiful place in the world. I come here to talk. To talk? To pray, he said. I feel closer to God here. I was surprised. I had depended on God so much in my life. Sometimes he was my only hope. Knowing Elvis shared my faith made me believe that God approved of our being together. I always wanted to bring someone here with me, he continued, but it had to be someone special. I could never find the right person. I thought I would always have to come here alone. Now I've found you. He squeezed my hand. Secure that he had filled one longing in his life, he switched to another, the one that remained unfulfilled. I was glad he continued talking about himself. I didn't want the conversation to shift to me. I met some musicians. We seem to have a good mix. They can help me and I can help them. If we work together, we might have a chance. I recorded something already. Nothing really, just a couple of songs for my mama. I'm going to record some more soon. Now that school's out of the way, I have more time. You wait, Lucy. In a year, you'll be real proud of me. So he did some research, the author, but his research is actually not accurate. So let me see if I can correct it a little bit. He says here the musicians Elvis referred to are probably Scotty Moore and Bill Black. They would later comprise the nucleus of his band. Elvis was not being modest about his recordings. Anybody who had $4 could make a recording at Memphis Recording Service, a sideline of Sam Phillips' Sun Records Company. According to the book, The Boy Who Dared to Rock, Elvis paid $4 and recorded his first two songs, My Happiness and That's Where Your Heartaches Begin, in July of '53. Some accounts place the date a few months earlier. They were put directly on acetate. Elvis left with the only copy. In January of '54, he paid another $4 and made a second set, Casual Love Affair and I'll Never Stand in Your Way. Again, he had the only copy. So what's going on right now is in November of 1953. So he hasn't made that second recording yet, which he does in January of '54. But he had made the first recordings in July of '53. And he said he did it for his mama. But at this stage of his life, he had not met Scotty Moore and Bill Black yet. He is not put with them until until the summer of '54. July of '54, they get together and they try to do some recordings for Sun Records. And that's when they end up making That's All Right Mama. But what's going on here, what he's probably talking about, is when Elvis lived at the Lauderdale courts, there were a couple guys in the courts that also played music, and they had a little band. And actually what's interesting is Bill Black's brother, Johnny. Bill Black was already married, but his brother, Johnny, lived in the courts with his mama, and he was part of that group. And there was a couple other boys, and they would go around singing at the courts. Sometimes they go out and play. But he also, I'm not sure the other time, he met some guys. He was trying to meet some other guys to play. And he went down to a place, I can't remember the name of it, in Memphis. A guy who ran a place. It could have been the Eagle's Nest, I'm not sure. But he was like the house band, and he tried out with them. And I think he sang a couple songs with them. So it could be them that he's talking about. But more likely it's the guys from the courts. So, anyway, but he doesn't meet Scotty Moore and Bill Black until July of '54. So So this guy was wrong in this research here. All right, back to Lucy's story. I was impressed with the motivations behind his determination. His quest for success appeared to be unselfish. He wanted only to please others and to be in a position to help those less fortunate. I was especially heartened by the way he respected his parents. I'm going to make it, Lucy. You believe me, don't you? I know you're going to make it. You're going to be sensational. You have something special. You really think so? You're very special to me and when you're on stage, to everyone. I know how much this means to you. I've been praying for you every night. God is listening. He always listens. Elvis was moved by my faith in him. I want you to be a part of it, Lucy. Help me. His words jarred me out of my dreamy fog. I couldn't be a part of anything. The only future I saw was a miserable attempt to lead a double life, one that relied upon deception at both ends. I thought of telling Elvis the truth, but couldn't face losing him. Not yet. I needed these moments more than he realized. I wanted to change the subject, but he was staring at me and waiting for an answer. I had to say something. I want to be a part of your life, but please, you must listen to me. Promise me you'll give me time. It has nothing to do with the way I feel. You must always promise never, never, never to talk about us to anyone. What we have is too special. It must remain that way until we're ready to announce it. Please promise me, just until we know and everything works out. So right there, right in the beginning, he's only known her for 2 months, and she tells him, promise me, never, never, never tell anyone about us. He seemed confused by my plea and suspected it had to do with my family not accepting him because he was poor. He knew that most grown-ups frowned on his unusual clothes and long hair. He misread my French accent and Boston education as a sign that I came from an upper-class family, even though I had told him that after my father died, we became poor. I was going to tell him that my family wasn't the problem, but I stopped before I said anything. If he feared my relatives, he wouldn't press to come to my home. Sometimes I get the feeling you're going to disappear, he said, that I'll never have you, that our moments together are so great because there aren't going to be many. My silence confirmed his suspicions. He looked at me as if I was going to vanish any second. I have a feeling things are going to start moving very fast soon, he said. I don't want the important things to get left behind. That's why I have to tell you how much I love you. I can't let it wait. See, he had that sense. He just had a feeling things were going to start happening soon. So he tells her he loves her already. For a moment, he couldn't find the right words to continue. Then he said, stay here with me for a while. We'll just sit and talk. I have so much I want to say. I want to be with you. Hey, how about if we camp here tonight instead of going back to the hotel? I knew that was his way of hanging on, but the request made me nervous. I had never willingly allowed a man to touch me. Incredible as it seems, in my mind I was still a virgin. Did you bring something to sleep in? He said. I nodded. Well, why don't you go change? I really shouldn't, I said, but my heart said differently. I excused myself and walked down the hill to the car. I found my small overnight bag and took out the gown I purchased the day before. It was long, soft, and trimmed with lace. It wasn't really sexy, just feminine. I climbed in the car, slipped off my blouse and slacks, and put it on. I could see the silhouette of Elvis's frame against the dying light as I walked up the hill. He was like a magnet pulling me nearer. He turned, saw me approaching, and extended his hand. When we touched, a soft breeze gently blew through my hair and pushed the gown close to my body. He embraced me with a single arm. The other was hidden behind his back. After a brief pause, he brought up his missing hand and presented a bouquet of wild fall flowers. He gently removed the gold barrette that held my hair, then guided the long black strands across my shoulders. Silently, he began picking out white frost daisies from the multicolored bouquet and delicately placed them in my hair. Lucy, you know what marriage is. It's when two people give themselves to each other and promise to love one another forever. No matter what happens, no matter who tries to stop them, they'll love each other forever. I'll never know that feeling, I thought to myself. I'll never be able to marry you. I can't. He was still worried about my family. That's why he said what he did. It was ironic that his attempt to convince me to stick by him made him express the exact strength he would need if he wanted me. He gently touched my face with his fingers, then opened his hands and pressed them to my cheeks. Moving them back to my ears, I could hear his heart pounding through his palms. Let's be together like this forever. With you at my side, I can do anything. Lucy, honey, will you marry me? I was petrified. It was the best moment of my life and the worst. The inevitable explosion of contrasting emotions nearly ignited. I thought of a frightened child who once stood next to a stranger and was forced to say I do. Did that forever chain me to a horrible man who treated me like a caged animal? Did it really count? It couldn't. It wasn't marriage in any form marriage was intended to be. In the eyes of God, I love you and will marry you, I said. You'll be mine forever, no matter what comes between us. I'll always love you. It was a strange, revealing acceptance, but Elvis let it pass. I accept you as my wife, he said formally, as if a church full of people were listening. I'll love you and only you. No matter what happens, I'll love you forever. The wind picked up and began blowing the flowers out of my hair. They fell upon my shoulders and rolled down my back, landing in a ring around my feet. I can't have a bride without flowers in her hair, Elvis said, reaching for the bouquet I still held at my side. He picked out small purple and lavender veronias and set them in a new wreath around my head. I dropped what remained of the bouquet and slipped my hand under Elvis's shirt. I needed to feel the warmth of his body. Darling, close your eyes, he said. Now open them. Elvis was holding a single red rose. I had no idea where it came from, but it was crumbled and wilted like the one he gave me in the restaurant. That didn't matter. It was still beautiful. I sighed deeply when he presented it, and that pleased him. This rose contains all the love we've promised, he said. It stands for the love I'll have for you forever. Whatever happens and wherever you are, when you see a rose, let it remind you of me. We knelt together in the blanket. Elvis appeared unsure of himself. What's wrong? I asked. May I have you for my very own? I'll never forget the way he looked at me, with eyes so gentle and loving. The time had come to offer myself freely to a man I loved, a man I had chosen. I answered him with the first passionate kiss I had ever given. My sudden forwardness frightened me for an instant. I backed away. Don't be afraid, Elvis whispered. I won't let anything bad happen. I won't never let anything bad happen to you. We lay down facing each other with our bodies together. Slowly, Elvis began caressing each part of my body. He playfully nibbled my lips as he stroked my face, neck, and breasts with his hands. Under the bright stars of a cool Memphis night, we consummated our love. It was more than just making love. Elvis's body washed away all the shame and dirtiness I had known before. He elevated me from a degraded child to a woman who knew the ecstasy of submission. Our love is written in the wind in heaven, Elvis said as we lay on our backs looking up at the stars. Do you believe this? I believed. The night grew chilly. We abandoned our plan to camp out and gathered our things. We reluctantly walked back to the car. Neither of us wanted the moment to end. We stood at the car and embraced, glancing up at the dark outline of the hill. Our vows of marriage had been unofficial, but had a lasting effect. Our love would carry us over the tremendous obstacles of the next 24 years. Phew. Tell you what, that is one good chapter, I'm telling you. I mean, the dude is romantic and extremely sweet and caring and loving. And there's the way she says some of these things that he says. I've actually heard him in real life talk like this, like when he gives interviews and in other books where he's had girlfriends and he's talked to them and they've replayed conversations. He calls people honey a lot, baby a lot, definitely honey. And let's see, what was some other things that sound like him? Of course, she writes this with the slang. I wish I could talk like him. Some of the things he says to her, with you by my side, I can do anything. And he needs to have a person by him his entire life. Honestly, he is not a someone who can live by himself. Let's see. I accept you as my wife. I love you and only you. No matter what happens, I love you forever. I can't have a bride without flowers in her hair. That's kind of, I don't know, that just sounds like something he would say. Darling, close your eyes. He did use darling, was a word he used a lot. This rose contains all the love we've promised. It stands for the love I'll have for you forever, whatever happens and whenever you are. When you see a rose, let it remind you of me. He talks about the stars and the moon and the rose throughout their story. It just carries on. Don't be afraid. I won't let, this was Biggie. Don't be afraid. I won't let anything bad happen. I won't never let anything bad happen to you. That is definitely something he would say, because he was always taking care of others and extremely responsible. He held his whole life, he held the responsibility of taking care of everyone, which ended up being a downfall because it was a lot of pressure to keep performing, to make money, to take care of his family. So right there, that is definitely something that sounds like him. Okay, so that's where we are. We're going to stop there, and we'll continue with the rest of the night in the next story. Okay, we'll talk to you later. Okay, bye.